The Lenovo Legion 7 gaming laptop is, to put it quite simply, an absolute monster. I've owned it for the past 6 months, and in this video, I'm going to cover all of the reasons why I think it's an absolutely great option for anyone looking for a laptop for performance-intensive tasks, such as video editing or gaming, but also why it's not for everyone. And for some, why it might not be worth its steep price tag, which at the time of recording ranges between around $1,400 and $3,000 in the US, depending on how it's configured. So the model I have here is super powerful. I've spec'd it out with an RTX 3080 graphics card, 16GB of RAM, and 1TB SSD. But it does also come with 32GB of RAM and up to 2TB of storage, as well as other options like the RTX 3060 or RTX 3070 graphics cards. The rest of the specs on this laptop make it look like it promises, well, everything. The screen has resolution 2560 by 1600 and it has a 16 by 10 aspect ratio, giving you more vertical depth than 16 by 9. Plus, the screen boasts an anti-glare IPS panel, has a max brightness of 500 nits, supports HDR 400 and Dolby Vision, and if that's not enough, has a max refresh rate of 165 Hz. I mean, even after owning this laptop for 6 months, those specs are seriously impressive. But is it as impressive to use as it sounds? Well, let's start off with the design, which I don't think is going to be for everyone. Now, before owning the Legion 7, I actually had a 2013 13-inch MacBook Pro for many years until one day I accidentally spilled tea all over it because I'm an idiot. Internet, please don't judge me. Now, after I made the switch, the Legion 7 did feel heavy duty and not super elegant, even if it's not as bulky as other modern day gaming laptops. Plus, the edges are a bit sharp, making it easy to scratch yourself on them if you're not that careful. On the flip side though, I do like the fact that the design isn't super gamery, you know, with loads of obnoxious logos, graphics, and lights that you can't switch off. So it is good if you want to take it out without looking really obscene, but it's not perfect. The air vents, for example, are just too angular for my liking, almost with a kind of sports car-ish feel that just isn't really my style. But if you can look past outer appearances, as I'm sure a lot of people will, then there are some really good benefits to the design too. The main one, I think, is that you're getting a lot of well-situated ports and switches. On the right, you've got USB-C and this extra button which lets you switch off your webcam for extra privacy. Then on the left, there's your headphone jack and another USB-C. All the other ports are on the back, which is actually a really great way to clean up your desk setup if you're working or gaming. Here, there's your power in, HDMI out for your external displays, 3 USB Type-A's, and a third USB Type-C, as well as your Ethernet port. When I first got the laptop, I did think, oh, is this gonna be a real pain having to reach around the back all the time, every single time I want to plug in the charger? But I actually haven't found it a problem at all. I think it worked great. The build quality is also really good. It's not the most lightweight laptop, coming in at around 2.5 kilograms or 5.5 pounds, but it feels strong and there's no flex to the keyboard. There is a little flex to the screen though, and I would recommend not pressing hard on it if you do get your hands on one. But overall, this laptop does not feel weak or poorly made, so nice job, Lenovo. Now, the display is absolutely a highlight, but there are some important things to keep in mind. The QHD resolution gives you sharper images than would Full HD, and it looks fantastic whether you're web browsing, playing games, or whatever. But know that if you are used to really high resolutions like Apple's Retina display, then this is going to look like a noticeable step down. As far as gaming is concerned though, QHD gives you this really nice sweet spot between Full HD, which can look a little bit pixelated on screens this size, and 4K, which is just gonna make your frame rate grind to a halt faster than I lost the will to live when I broke my old MacBook. The screen brightness is really awesome. I mean, just look at the range here. It gets so bright you'll likely need to turn it down when you're not in super bright light just to avoid burning your eyes, but it really makes images pop whether you're playing games or looking at sharp, colorful images. Now, I haven't noticed a huge difference toggling the HDR settings on and off when consuming HDR content. On higher end displays, this feature would really emphasize the differences between the darkest and the lightest portions of the screen. But that range isn't so dramatic here, probably because we're dealing with HDR 400 rather than something higher end like HDR 1000. Gaming performance is great, and to be honest, unless you can get your hands on something with one of the new RTX 3080 Ti's, this is going to be just about as good as you can get outside of a desktop and monitor setup. The Legion 7 also comes fully loaded with G-Sync, preventing screen tearing and keeping gameplay feeling really smooth. I've tried a variety of different games on the Legion 7, and with RTS titles like Age of Empires 4, everything runs really smoothly with no radical drops in FPS. More demanding games like Cyberpunk 2077 and Shadow of the Tomb Raider also run okay, but if you're playing in 1440p, you might have to turn down some of the graphics settings in order to get frame rates consistently above 60 FPS. In all cases though, you'll still be able to achieve good gaming performance with all of the RTX 30 series graphics cards. Just opt for the 3080 if you really want to squeeze out as much performance as you can. Like many gaming laptops, the Legion 7 does have its gimmicks, and for me, one of those is Lenovo's Vantage software, which lets you toggle between 3 different modes. The first, performance mode, squeezes the laptop's internals for all of the FPS or rendering speed or whatever that it can get. Quiet mode reduces power consumption, saves battery, and slows fan speed. And then there's auto mode, which also gives you the option to have the laptop automatically detect the current game you're playing and then tune GPU performance accordingly. Now, all of this sounds nice and customizable, but I'm just not really sure why you wouldn't leave the laptop on auto and just let it do all the switching by itself. That's what I've been doing, and I haven't really ever found any issues. But if you do like the ability to manually switch yourself, then you might like this feature. Now, something else needs to be said about my experience with this laptop so far, which is not good. Recently I found that as I'm using it, it will just randomly freeze all of a sudden, sticking on the frame that it's currently on and just not giving me the option to move the cursor at all. And the only way that I can resolve the problem is just by powering the laptop off and then switching it back on again. This is obviously seriously annoying, especially when you're in the middle of something, and I'll be getting in touch with Lenovo just to see if there's anything that needs to be repaired or if I need to get it replaced. The battery life on the Legion 7 is okay. I've managed to get about 5 hours on a single charge, so long as I'm not doing anything performance intensive, which is pretty decent for a gaming laptop. One massive issue that I found though is that the battery actually drains about 3 or 4 times faster if the included Corsair iQ software, which controls the RGB lighting, is left on. This is really irritating, and it's actually enough of a reason for me just to leave the RGB lighting completely off all the time, even if it's the case that I don't have it plugged in and I just want something as simple as a dim backlight under the keyboard. Now, I'm not sure how many other people have found the same. I have heard of a couple of other cases though, so I'm not sure that it's something which is isolated to just this model that I have. The Legion 7 comes with a 720p webcam, which I would say is pretty good quality. Here's a test for illustration. So here's how the webcam looks and how the audio sounds, just to give you a sense of how good the microphone is. The webcam is placed at the center of the screen, right at the top, so fortunately it's not in any awkward locations. Because the laptop feels well built, I also found it really nice to type on. It's not super loud, even though it does give you a clear tactile sound when you type on it. And I personally find that the keys have enough resistance to them that they don't feel really difficult to type on, but they also don't feel really mushy like on other keyboards. Here's a sound test to illustrate. Now, the touchpad is actually a bit of a mixed bag. It feels really good and it has a nice click to it, and it actually felt like a decent upgrade from my old MacBook Pro. But every so often, once every few days or so, the trackpad will just randomly stop working and I can't even move the cursor around. I'm not really sure why, and it is really frustrating because I have to plug in an external mouse or just power down the laptop and then switch it back on again to get the trackpad working once more. Aside from that, I did notice that the cursor sensitivity felt a little bit low out of the box, but that's something you can really easily adjust via Windows settings. So there's a ton to be impressed with about the Legion 7, but in the end it all comes down to that question, is it as impressive to use as it looks like on paper? Well, in my view, if you put aside the freezing and the sticking trackpad issues, if you have them, which to be honest, might sound like a big ask, then the answer is basically yes. But that doesn't mean it's for everyone. If you don't want to pay its steep price tag and you don't want something quite as high performing, which many people won't, then there are cheaper alternatives, even like the Lenovo Legion 5, which can be configured with an RTX 3050 and other specs performing at a similar level. But even if you are ready to spend as much as the most expensive Legion 7 costs, then the most essential questions are going to be whether or not you like the bulky design and you really need all of that performance that it brings to the table. And if the answer to both of those questions is yes, well then the Lenovo Legion 7 is absolutely worth considering, and I would definitely recommend it. So that's been it. If you like this video, then don't forget to smash the like button, hit subscribe, and tap the bell for notifications, and I will see you in the next one.